The elderly cowboy named Tom lived far from the busy towns where roads were loud and people rushed through life. His home stood alone near a wide open plain where grass moved like waves under the sky. Every morning Tom woke before sunrise because his body remembered the old routine even when his strength slowly faded. He boiled coffee on a small stove and sat on the wooden step watching the light touch the land. Tom had lived most of his life with animals and soil rather than people. He trusted horses more than words and silence more than crowds. His face carried deep lines shaped by sun, wind, and years of honest work. His hands were rough but gentle, and they still moved with care when touching leather or rope. 10 years earlier Tom's life had been very different. Back then he owned a strong brown horse named Dusty. Dusty was not just a working animal, but a true companion who understood Tom without sound. They moved together as if sharing one mind and one path. Dusty had a calm nature but strong spirit. He never pulled away when frightened and never tired easily. There was a small white mark near his left ear that Tom used to touch every night before sleep. That mark made Dusty easy to recognize among any other horse. Tom's wife had passed away long before Dusty disappeared. After her death, Dusty became Tom's comfort and reason to keep moving forward. The horse carried Tom across long trails and stayed close during cold nights. In Dusty's quiet presence Tom felt less alone in the wide, empty world. One stormy night changed everything. Rain fell hard and wind screamed across the plain. Tom secured the barn door and checked on Dusty before going inside. That night thunder echoed until the ground shook. By morning the barn stood open and Dusty was gone. The rope had been cut clean and the tracks led toward the road. Tom felt his chest tighten as he ran into the rain calling Dusty's name. No answer came back except the sound of wind. For weeks Tom searched everywhere. He rode borrowed horses through nearby towns and dusty paths. He showed old photos and described the white mark again and again. Some people listened while others turned away quickly. Days became weeks and weeks turned into months. Each failed search carved deeper pain into Tom's heart. Money ran low and strength faded, but hope refused to leave completely. Even when people told him to give up, Tom could not. Eventually the search ended not by choice but by time. Tom returned home alone and the land felt larger and colder. The barn stayed quiet and nights felt longer than before. Yet Tom kept Dusty's saddle clean and ready. Years passed slowly. Tom grew older and weaker, but his memory stayed sharp. He spoke to Dusty as if the horse could hear him from afar. He believed that if Dusty lived, then fate would cross their paths again. One afternoon many years later Tom traveled to a nearby town to sell handmade leather goods. He did not go often because crowds tired him. The town had grown bigger than he remembered. New buildings stood where old ones once leaned. Tom walked slowly through the streets carrying his bag. People moved past him without noticing the old man. The sound of voices and machines filled the air. Tom felt out of place but focused on finishing his work. As he passed a fenced yard near the edge of town, he suddenly stopped. A familiar shape stood inside the fence. The brown coat shone under the sun and a strong posture caught Tom's eye. His heart began to pound without warning. The horse lifted its head and looked toward him. Time seemed to slow as Tom stepped closer. His breath became shallow and his hands trembled. He felt a strange pull he could not explain. The horse turned slightly and Tom saw the small white mark near the left ear. His vision blurred as tears filled his eyes. His legs felt weak and he grabbed the fence for support. In that moment years of waiting rushed back into his chest. Tom whispered the name Dusty under his breath. The horse flicked its ears as if hearing a familiar sound. For a brief second the noise of town faded away. Only the old cowboy and the horse existed in that space. 10 long years had passed but Tom knew without doubt. The horse before him was the same one taken during the storm. The same companion who shared his grief and silence. The same soul who never left his heart. Tom stood there frozen between fear and hope. He did not know who owned the horse now or why it was here. He only knew that fate had finally answered him. What came next would change everything he believed about loss and time. Tom stood by the fence for a long moment as his heart tried to calm itself. The horse remained still and watched him with dark, steady eyes. Years had passed, but that look had not changed at all. Tom felt both joy and fear because finding Dusty was only the beginning. Slowly Tom reached out and placed his hand on the wooden fence. His fingers trembled as memories rushed through his mind. He remembered long rides, quiet nights, and shared struggles. All of that returned in a single breath. The horse stepped closer to the fence. Dusty lowered his head slightly, as if recognizing an old friend. Tom whispered the name again, and his voice cracked. The horse released a soft sound that made Tom's knees weak. People nearby began to notice the old man standing by the fence. Some slowed down while others stopped to watch. To them, it was only a man and a horse. To Tom, it was a lost part of his life standing before him. Before Tom could move further, a strong voice spoke behind him. The voice asked what he was doing near the fence. Tom turned slowly and saw a tall man wearing clean boots and a neat shirt. The man looked confused and slightly annoyed. Tom explained in a calm but shaking voice that the horse belonged to him. He spoke about the white mark and the years of searching. The man frowned and crossed his arms. He said the horse had been bought long ago from another town. The man claimed the horse was now his property. He said he paid good money and raised the horse himself. People around them listened closely as tension filled the air. Tom felt his chest tighten, but he did not raise his voice. Tom asked gently if he could step inside the fence. The man hesitated but allowed it. As soon as Tom entered the yard, Dusty walked toward him. The horse pressed his head against Tom's chest. The crowd gasped softly as they watched the moment. Dusty stood still as Tom rested his forehead against the horse's neck. Years of separation melted into that simple touch. The horse did not pull away even for a second. The man who claimed ownership stepped closer. His expression changed from doubt to uncertainty. He had never seen the horse act this way before. Dusty had always been calm but never emotional. Tom slowly showed the man the white mark near Dusty's ear. He explained how he had cleaned that spot every night. He spoke about the storm and the cut rope. His words were simple but carried deep truth. The man remained silent for a long moment. He looked at the horse, then at Tom. Something inside him shifted as he watched Dusty stay close to the old cowboy. The bond was clear and undeniable. The man finally spoke and said he had bought Dusty from traders years ago. He admitted the horse arrived tired and scared. At the time he thought nothing of it. Now he realized the story might be darker than expected. Tom did not accuse or shout. He only asked for the truth. The crowd waited quietly as the man struggled with his thoughts. The air felt heavy with emotion. After a long pause, the man nodded slowly. He said he believed Tom. He said the horse was never truly his. Those words caused a ripple of surprise among the onlookers. The man offered to return Dusty without asking for money. He said no payment could replace what was lost. Tom felt tears roll down his face as gratitude filled him. His hands shook as he held the rope. Dusty followed Tom willingly as they left the fence together. The horse stayed close like he used to years ago. People stepped aside to let them pass. Some smiled while others wiped their eyes. As Tom led Dusty through the town, he felt lighter. His steps felt steadier than they had in years. Yet deep inside he wondered how Dusty survived all this time. He also wondered who took him that night long ago. The journey was not over yet. Finding Dusty had opened new questions. Tom sensed that the truth behind the theft would soon come to light. Fate was not finished with him yet. That evening Tom and Dusty stood together under the fading sky. The world felt quiet again. But something bigger waited ahead. The past was about to reveal itself fully. Tom and Dusty left the town slowly as the sun moved closer to the hills. The road felt familiar again even though many years had passed. Dusty walked calmly beside Tom, as if he had never left his side. Each step felt like a promise that the past was not lost forever. When they reached the open land near Tom's home, the wind greeted them softly. The grass moved gently and the sky glowed with warm color. Tom stopped for a moment and rested his hand on Dusty's neck. He thanked the land for bringing them back together. That night Tom prepared the barn with care. He spread fresh hay and cleaned every corner slowly. Dusty watched quietly and followed every movement. When the work was done, Dusty stepped inside without fear. Tom sat outside the barn and listened to the quiet sounds of night. For the first time in many years he felt complete. Yet sleep did not come easily because questions filled his mind. He needed to know how Dusty had survived all these years. The next morning Tom decided to visit the nearby town again. He wanted answers and he believed they were close. Dusty followed willingly and seemed alert, as if sensing something important. Together they returned to the place where Dusty had been kept. The man who returned Dusty was waiting near the fence. His face looked thoughtful and serious. He invited Tom to sit and talk without hurry. The air between them felt heavy but honest. The man explained that years ago traders passed through town selling horses. They offered Dusty at a low price and claimed the horse was unwanted. At the time the man did not ask many questions. Now he regretted that choice deeply. Tom listened quietly and nodded. He knew anger would not heal anything. He only wanted the truth to be known. The man shared every detail he remembered. One detail stood out strongly. The traders mentioned a ranch not far from Tom's land. Tom felt a sharp pain in his chest as memories returned. That ranch had belonged to someone he once trusted. Tom realized that the theft had likely come from close by. The thought hurt more than the loss itself. Trust broken was harder to heal than distance. Yet Tom knew he had to face it. That afternoon Tom traveled toward the old ranch. Dusty walked beside him with steady steps. The building looked worn and nearly abandoned. Time had not been kind to it. An older man stepped out slowly when he saw them. His eyes widened when he noticed Dusty. The silence between them said more than words ever could. Tom felt the truth settle heavily in his heart. The man confessed without being pushed. He said desperation had driven him to make a terrible choice. He believed Dusty would be sold quickly and forgotten. He never expected Tom to search for so long. Tom stood quietly and listened. He did not shout or accuse. He only felt sadness for what greed had done to them both. The man lowered his head in shame. Tom said he forgave him. Those words surprised even himself. He knew holding anger would only chain him to the past. Forgiveness felt like freedom. The man promised to make things right. He agreed to tell the full story if asked. Tom nodded and turned away with Dusty. The past no longer had power over him. On the way home Tom felt lighter than he had in years. Dusty walked proudly as if sensing peace. The land welcomed them with open silence. The journey had changed them both. Back at the homestead Tom began to rebuild more than the barn. He repaired fences and planted new grass. Each task felt meaningful again. Life slowly returned to his days. Neighbors noticed the change in Tom. He smiled more and stood taller. Dusty became a familiar sight once again. The bond between them inspired quiet respect. As seasons passed Tom found joy in simple moments. Riding at dawn, sharing quiet evenings and resting under stars. He no longer felt haunted by loss. He felt grateful for return. The story of the lost horse spread quietly. People spoke of patience, loyalty, and forgiveness. Tom never asked for attention. He only lived his truth. Dusty grew older with Tom, but their spirits stayed strong. Together they proved that time cannot break true bonds. What was stolen had found its way home. And peace followed where pain once lived. Life slowly settled into a steady rhythm for Tom and Dusty after the truth came out. The land around the homestead seemed to breathe easier, as if it also felt relief. Each morning Tom woke with purpose instead of habit. Dusty waited patiently by the barn, ready to follow wherever the day led. Tom began riding again after many years away from the saddle. At first his body resisted and his joints ached. Dusty moved gently and adjusted his pace without being guided. They learned each other again step by step. The rides were short at first and stayed close to home. Tom spoke softly as they moved across the grass. He shared memories and small thoughts that had been kept inside for years. Dusty listened in quiet understanding. Word about the returned horse spread across nearby towns. People stopped by the homestead out of curiosity at first. They wanted to see the old cowboy and the horse that came back after so long. Some brought food while others offered help. Tom welcomed them with simple kindness. He never exaggerated the story or asked for sympathy. He told the truth calmly and let people draw their own meaning. Many left feeling inspired and thoughtful. A young boy from a nearby farm began visiting often. The boy loved horses but had little experience. Tom noticed the careful way the boy watched Dusty. He saw respect instead of excitement. Tom decided to teach the boy what he knew. He showed him how to clean the barn and prepare feed. He explained patience and trust before riding skills. Dusty stood calmly as the lessons unfolded. The boy learned quickly and listened closely. Dusty accepted him and allowed gentle interaction. Tom watched from a distance, feeling proud. Passing knowledge felt like planting seeds for the future. As weeks passed, Tom noticed changes in himself. His sleep grew deeper and his thoughts lighter. He laughed more often and worried less. Forgiveness had removed a heavy weight from his chest. Dusty also showed signs of peace. He no longer startled at sudden sounds. His eyes looked calm and steady. The long years of uncertainty were finally gone. One evening a strong storm rolled across the plain. Dark clouds gathered and thunder echoed loudly. Tom felt a familiar tension but did not panic. Dusty remained calm inside the barn. Tom stayed with him through the storm. He remembered the night Dusty was taken. This time fear did not control him. He knew nothing could break them apart again. When the storm passed, the sky cleared quickly. Stars appeared bright and sharp above the land. Tom stepped outside and breathed deeply. He felt gratitude instead of loss. The next day Tom made an important decision. He placed a sign near the road offering help to travelers. It was not for money but for kindness. People passing through could rest or share a meal. Some travelers stayed briefly while others stayed longer. They shared stories of long roads and hard choices. Tom listened and offered quiet advice. Dusty often stood nearby as a silent comfort. The homestead became a place of calm for many. No one felt rushed or judged. Time moved slower there. The land held space for healing. Tom realized his life still had purpose. Losing Dusty once had taught him patience. Finding him again taught him gratitude. Everything in between shaped his wisdom. As winter approached, Tom prepared carefully. He repaired the roof and stored feed. Dusty stayed strong and healthy. They faced the cold together without fear. One night Tom sat by the fire thinking about the past. He did not feel pain when memories came. He felt understanding and peace. The journey had completed a circle. He knew his story was not about loss. It was about loyalty and time. About how true bonds wait without fading. And how forgiveness brings freedom. Dusty rested quietly nearby. The sound of his breathing matched the fire crackle. Tom smiled gently. Everything was exactly where it belonged. The final season of Tom's story did not arrive loudly. It came quietly like morning light touching the land. Tom continued his days with steady calm and clear purpose. Dusty remained beside him through every task and moment. The homestead had changed from a place of loneliness into a place of warmth. People no longer passed by without stopping. Some came to listen while others came to rest. Everyone felt something gentle there. Tom did not call himself wise. He only shared what life had shown him. He spoke about patience and about waiting without bitterness. Many listened more deeply than they expected. The young boy who once visited now came regularly. He had grown taller and more confident. Tom trusted him with small responsibilities. Dusty accepted him fully as a friend. One morning Tom taught the boy how to saddle Dusty properly. He explained every movement slowly. The boy listened carefully and followed with respect. Dusty stood still, showing trust. Tom watched and felt a quiet pride. He knew knowledge lived on through action. Teaching gave him joy he did not expect. It made his days feel meaningful again. As time passed, Tom's body grew weaker, but his spirit stayed strong. He moved slower, but his mind stayed clear. Dusty adjusted without instruction. Their bond spoke without words. One afternoon Tom and Dusty rode to the highest point on the land. The sky was wide and clear. The wind moved gently across the grass. Tom looked out and smiled softly. He remembered every chapter of his life. Loss, hardship, waiting, and return. Nothing felt wasted anymore. Everything had shaped him. Tom rested his hand on Dusty's neck. He thanked him quietly for coming back. Dusty stood calm and steady. Their hearts understood each other. As evening approached, they returned home slowly. The homestead waited peacefully. The fire was ready and the night calm. Tom felt content. In the weeks that followed, Tom prepared quietly. He organized his belongings carefully. He spoke with neighbors and shared plans. He wanted everything in order. The boy visited more often, sensing change. Tom taught him final lessons. He spoke about care, responsibility, and kindness. The boy listened with respect. One night Tom sat under the stars longer than usual. Dusty rested nearby. The sky felt endless and calm. Tom felt no fear. He whispered thanks to the land and the horse. He felt complete. He closed his eyes peacefully. The night carried him gently. Morning came quietly. The sun rose over the plain. Dusty stood beside Tom and waited. He did not leave. Neighbors arrived and understood without words. They honored Tom with silence and respect. They cared for Dusty with love. The bond remained strong. The boy stepped forward with steady hands. He had learned well. Dusty accepted him fully. The circle continued. The homestead lived on. Stories were shared quietly. The old cowboy's life became a lesson of loyalty, patience, and forgiveness. Dusty remained a symbol of return. Not everything lost stays lost forever. Some bonds wait beyond time. They return when hearts are ready. The land remembered Tom kindly. The wind carried his story. And Dusty walked forward with calm strength. The journey was complete.